Everything changed. 1 minute ago, the fragile image of control projected by Keir Starmer shattered under the weight of his own party's rebellion and the gavel of the court. Tonight, Labour stands in chaos. A house divided, a movement betrayed, and a leader exposed. Starmer has walked a tightrope for months, balancing ruthlessness with calm, authority with caution, and ambition with fear. But tonight the rope snapped. Tonight, the illusions ended. And what we are left with is a party at war with itself, and a leader who has lost the very legitimacy he clung to as his final shield. That IT began quietly enough. Whispers in the corridors, murmurs in backroom meetings. Discontent grows louder with every compromise, purge, and betrayal of the principles that Labour once claimed to defend. Starmer's leadership has always rested on a single idea, that he was the grown-up, the man who could restore order and bring respectability back to a party humiliated in 2019. He convinced many that Labour had to become a machine of discipline, a party stripped of idealism, stripped even of its own soul, just to win again. But that machine is breaking. Tonight, his authority lies in ruins. The internal revolt is no longer quiet. It is no longer hidden. It is open rebellion. Senior figures are speaking out. Grassroots activists, once silenced, are marching into meetings and demanding answers. MPs once cowed into submission are now openly defying the whip. And the reason is painfully clear. Because Starmer has broken faith with the people who put him there. It is impossible to overstate the damage done by his endless purges, his obsession with control, and his disdain for the rank and file who dared to believe Labour could stand for something more than cautious centrism and corporate appeasement. From the day he took office, he turned on his own. He targeted the left of his party with a zeal he had never shown toward his supposed Tory opponents. He suspended members, banned candidates, and gutted local parties, all in the name of electability, all in the name of respectability. But now, that strategy has come full circle. Now, the very people he sought to silence have risen to make their voices heard. And then came the final blow. The legal defeat has turned discontent into outright mutiny. The courts, in a searing judgment, ruled against Starmer's leadership tactics, declaring that his suspension of members, his interference in candidate selection, and his heavy-handed grip over internal processes were not just morally bankrupt but unlawful. The judgment is more than a legal setback. It is a moral indictment, a public shaming of a man who claimed to stand for fairness and due process while trampling on both. You could see it in his face as the news broke. The calm veneer cracked. The controlled tone gave way to anger, then disbelief, then a hollow, stunned silence. This was not how it was supposed to happen. This was not the story he had written for himself. In his story, the party would fall into line, the public would rally behind his competence, and his critics would fade into irrelevance. But the story is over. Tonight, we see the truth. A party divided not by ideology alone, but by trust. A party led by a man whose leadership no longer commands loyalty, no longer inspires confidence, and no longer even pretends to represent the people he was meant to serve. And it is not just those on the left who feel betrayed. Even his own allies, the centrists and technocrats who once celebrated his rise, are beginning to wonder, what is he really offering? What does he really stand for? Because the strategy of being not the Tories only works for so long. At some point, people ask, if you cannot unite your own party, how will you unite the country? If you cannot protect the basic rights of your own members, how can you claim to defend the rights of the nation? If you cannot lead with integrity here, why should anyone believe you can lead with integrity there? These questions are no longer whispered. They are being shouted at. And as the internal revolt grows louder, as the legal defeat reverberates through the party, Starmer's grip weakens. Every day, more voices join the chorus. Every day, more MPs test the limits of their authority. Every day, more ordinary members threaten to walk away, because this is bigger than a single court case, bigger than a single controversy. This is about the soul of the Labour Party. And tonight, that soul is crying out for something, anything, more than the sterile politics of appeasement and control. For too long, Starmer has treated his party as an obstacle to be managed, rather than a movement to be inspired. He has treated Labour's history, its proud tradition of struggle and solidarity, as an embarrassment to be buried, rather than a legacy to be honored. He has treated its members, the people who knock on doors, who fill the rallies, who pour their lives into this party, as a problem to be silenced rather than a base to be empowered. And now, those members are fighting back. Tonight, Starmer stands humiliated, not by his opponents in the Tory benches, but by his own, not by the press, but by the courts, not by circumstance, but by his own choices. And the British people are watching. They are watching a man who promised unity and delivered division. A man who promised principle and delivered expedience. A man who promised competence and delivered chaos. The cracks in his leadership are no longer cracks. They are chasms. And the question is no longer whether Starmer can hold the party together, but whether there is anything left to hold. We are witnessing a collapse not just of a man's authority, but of a myth. The myth that Labour can win by abandoning its base. The myth that discipline is more important than democracy. The myth that power is worth anything if you betray the very people you claim to fight for in order to get it. Labour is in chaos tonight. But that chaos is not the product of some inevitable factional war. It is the product of a choice. Starmer's choice. The choice to rule by fear rather than respect. The choice to silence dissent rather than engage it. The choice to wage war on his own party rather than wage war on the injustices that still scar this country. And now he is paying the price. The revolt will not end here. The judgment will not be forgotten. The anger will not be quieted, because once trust is broken, it cannot be repaired with spin. Once the principle is abandoned, it cannot be reclaimed with platitudes. Once a leader is exposed as weak, the people will not be convinced again by carefully rehearsed displays of strength. Tonight, Labour stands at a crossroads. And so does Britain. That we can continue down the path Starmer has chosen. The path of timidity, of betrayal, of control. Or we can turn back towards something braver, something bolder, something truer to what this party was meant to be. The choice belongs to the members, to the voters, to the people of this country. But it is a choice that must be made soon, because leadership is not about managing decline. It is not about suppressing dissent. It is not about playing it safe while everything around you burns. Leadership is about standing for something, even when it costs you. Leadership is about uniting people around a vision that is bigger than yourself. Leadership is about fighting for the people who believe in you, even when the world tells you not to. And tonight, Keir Starmer has shown that he does not understand any of that. His leadership is broken. His party is in chaos. His time may well be running out, because Britain deserves a Labour Party and a leader who believes in something more than himself, and that is not what we saw tonight. Not by a long shot. The reckoning has begun, and it will not end quietly.